Hi, welcome to Electronic Smoke. Right, this week we are going to talk about the new workshop, which isn't quite ready yet, unfortunately. The walls, the lining for the walls and the insulation didn't arrive on time, mainly due to financial restrictions, unfortunately. The cash that was put aside for it has been used elsewhere in the kitchen. If you've been following me on Twitter, I have been keeping this updated. So the kitchen is done. We still got a couple of cupboards to put up. Once they are up, the splashbacks have to go on, and then that's it. Right, the new workshop is a 12 by 8 foot shed. I have it built in my garden, and the updates that are going to be in there, or the extras that I'm going to add, are for the electronic side of it, a circuit breaker system. The circuit breaker is probably one of the biggest upgrades, because I have actually, when doing a few repairs, popped the fuses here, unfortunately. Also, with the new workshop, going to be slightly different layout. Hopefully, the background behind me is going to be more beneficial for use. Whiteboard, pinboard, as well as the electronics. As soon as the new workshop is built and up and operational, I will do a small tour of the workshop, and hopefully that will be relatively shortly. I know it's not going to be over the next week anyway. It's going to be at least a couple of weeks before I can get the rest of the bits ordered. Now, I'm also looking to get a Heiko FX 888 soldering iron. I've already got a hot air workstation, as you've seen. I've got my soldering station here, which I need to get new tips for. Reorganise my storage, which, as you know, is going to be probably at least 3 or 4 times more than I've got just now. The workshop is also going to have a clean area, which is going to be for the electronics, as well as a dirty area for drilling PCBs, making PCBs. It doesn't matter if that area gets stained and marked and whatnot. So that's in the pipeline as well. I have already built 2 benches. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to take one of them down, because I'm going to need to line the walls, and that bench has to be mounted straight to one of the outside walls. So that's going to have to get changed as well. I've also going to run through a small board that I'm currently producing and making. It's Arduino boards. Hopefully you can see that in focus. What it is, it's an Arduino's ISP, obviously it's written down here, and what's for programming is the 28 pin and the 8 pin, 80 mega and 80 tiny range of processors. We have a switch here to disable the reset from the Arduino when it receives serial data coming in from the program. A crystal. We have these 2 resistors here. One's the reset resistor, one's the override for the reset on the Nove capacitor, which is the reset override on the Uno. Though I have actually discovered that that works on both. It doesn't actually make any difference whether it's on an Uno or the Nove. Down here we have various pins. We have a heartbeat that pulses when the system's running. We have an error light which comes on if the programming fails, and we have a programming light that flickers or comes on steady when it's programming. It's in the back. It's got the pins, standard shield footprint, These also get issued with a serial number, and they get tested as well. These are only available on eBay at the moment. Though if anybody does want them that's watching the video, then by all means leave me a message and I'll get back to you with price and availability of them. Now, I get these made up in 10s and 20s. Well, I don't get them made up, I get the boards made, then I assemble them myself here. I use reflow technique. Now, what I'm going to do is turn the camera a little bit and show you my reflow oven. Reflow oven down here. Now, that is a toaster that I got from a car boot sale for £5. On top of it, you can see I've got a couple of irons. Now, these irons are used when I do the thermal transfer of toner from laser printing onto the copper FR4 boards. And what I do is I put on a couple of blobs of solder onto the pads on here, place the components, pop it into the oven. It takes about 4 minutes. Very rarely does it take more than 4 minutes. I then hand solder the sockets, the switch, the resonator, and I actually hand solder the capacitor because I did try reflowing one before and for some odd reason the capacitor failed. Now, I don't know whether it was a bad capacitor or whether it couldn't withstand the heat from the oven, so I just do those by hand anyway. Now, the design on these is sort of borrowed from the open source market. The reason I say borrowed is the diagram or the output is on the Arduino website, and I just modified the layout that they supplied to have surface mount components and then design the board and the shield around it. Now, I've sold these and I've had brilliant feedback on emails from individuals who bought them, who couldn't get the Arduino's ISP to run on breadboards. I plugged this in, plugged the chip on the top, and it's run straight away. And that was my primary goal. Now, that brings me on to why I like designing stuff. I like designing stuff to see it out there. I'm not really a great design it for me kind of guy. There is a few bits and pieces I've built, as you've seen. I've built a programmer and whatnot. The buzz I get is from either repairing something that somebody's handed in, or from designing a board that I send out and then somebody emails back or writes back to thank me for, you know, providing a board or a solution to a problem that they had. The main sort of boards I tend to design are Arduino based, but that's because the Arduino is my sort of core hobby, if you like, and it's the whole point of starting up this blog. I will be primarily focusing on Arduino, the shields, and hopefully programming as well. Now, I'm not the best programmer in the world, though I do tend to find different ways to do things because of that. I don't have any preconceived conceptions about how a program should be written. If I write a program, if it fits in the memory and I don't run out of RAM, as far as I'm concerned, that's a success. There is times when I've had to rewrite various parts of code because I've overrun on memory, especially if I'm working on the tiny 45s or the tiny 85s. they can be somewhat of a challenge to get certainly interactive programs into. They've only got 5 input-output pins. Only 3 of those I believe you can use as analog. 3 of them are PWM, and obviously you can use them as digital. Now with those I tend to, depending on the project, use shift registers. I've got 74HC 164 and 165. They're non-latching registers, and the 74HC 595s, they're latching registers. I will be covering these components later. What they do, just a very brief run through, is they convert a stream of ones and zeros into a parallel stream. Similar to the way the old parallel printers would work, they would take one block of information in at a time, whereas USB gives you a stream of characters at a time. This takes either a block of characters and converts them to a single stream so that you only need the one input, or does the opposite, takes a stream and converts it into a block of 8-bit output. So I'm in the process of designing an Arduino type board. It will have the Arduino footprint on it, so it can use shields, but it will have at least 2 or 3 shifted inputs and shifted outputs. Also on board, it will have the ability to show the inputs and outputs directly through LEDs, which a small jumper or a switch will disable, and that will allow the full current to flow onto the output pins. Now this project unfortunately is a back burner project, as I call it. It's not a mainstream one. I'm only doing it on my downtime. I don't think there's going to be a big use for it, but we'll see how it goes. Unfortunately, with the price of the Mega 128s and the 256s, it might not be financially viable to actually make the boards. But we'll have a look at that if I actually get round to finalising the design. As I say, I may or may not. Right, going back to the boards. Now you can also contact me if you want one of these boards unassembled, or multiple boards unassembled. I can give you a price on those as well. Just contact me down there somewhere, or leave me a message, and I will get back to you with price and availability of these boards or the completed shields. Choice is yours. Now, that winds up this week's vlog, so thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, electronic smoke.